One more thing that we have to talk about is the Disney parks. Disney recently announced two things that I thought were very telling about how in trouble the Disney company is right now, or at least when it comes to park, how in trouble they are. The first is this new 2 day Florida resident ticket. Um, and if you're a Florida resident, you can now have a 2 day Disney park ticket for $159. And this is valid through September 29th. And I think you have to go to. Oh well, no. I thought you had. Yeah, you had to go to Epcot or Animal Kingdom, but you get the 2 day pass for 159 for 2 days at Disney. Now, I'm not going to say that Bob Iger listens to the show and decided to do what we said, but we had talked about bringing back the half day ticket. The half day ticket, if you remember, was for parks that were not Magic Kingdom, that were, and it was like $88 per day, and I believe it was sold in like 2 day increments. So you had to have the half day ticket. Now, Bob, I'm not going to say that you stole my idea about bringing this back. What I am going to say is I've never wanted to be more of a Florida resident in my life. So you look at something like that, and then you also see that Disney brings back Tom Staggs and Kevin Mayer to consult on ESPN. They consult on the parks. They're consulting for Disney. Now, of course, Tom Staggs had been, he wasn't really let go. He left Disney. Kevin Mayer, same deal, left Disney before. Cameron, I know this is really big news to you, so I'm going to start with you. What are you thinking of this whole thing?
A couple of things. That I don't think Disney is really as in trouble as they're saying. It's just that because these corporations are beholden to profits and continuing to improve year over year, having a huge year of revenge travel, like they're not going to get that again. And some of the stuff that I've seen is if you look at travel pre-pandemic and compare that to this year, like they're up. So when you have this thing of, oh my gosh, we had all these people here and it was a unique situation coming out of a pandemic, everyone was like, well, we can travel now, let's travel. And everyone did. Well, now that's over. You can't expect to reach this epic monument again just from normal travel. And I think instead of treating it as an anomaly and naming it as such, they want to act like, oh no, everybody wanted to come to Disney that year, and everyone still wants to come to Disney. No, come on, come on, come on. Just understand, like, take that L. Like, hey, that was a great year, but we're not. That was a unique situation, which we hope to never be in that position again, because literally they had to shut down the parks in order to get to that. Um, but to have Kevin and Tom come back in, that is very interesting because usually that Michael Eisner, as much as he was hated, like by the end of his tenure, at the beginning of his tenure, like I remember Michael Eisner being like Walt Disney. Like he was in everything. Like I remember him coming out and sitting. What was it? It was before the Wonderful World of Disney.
Wonderful
It was
World of Disney.
before
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
in all the advertisements, all this stuff. I knew who Michael Eisner was even before I was a really big Disney fan. Like I liked
Yep.
Disney, but I was not. Oh yeah, Disney. I was not a huge Disney fan. Um,
Yeah.
so having someone who's been out of the company and coming back into the company, I'm very curious because Tom Staggs was supposed to be the CEO of the Disney company, and it wasn't until it was him and
Rizzullo.
yes, thank you.
Yes. Jay
Hey,
Rizzullo.
Rizzullo.
Yes. Good
And
job.
neither of them became.
I mean, we could retread what happened there a little bit. And honestly, we need to give Cameron like his props because he's the only person among the four of us who was on that Stags is coming back train.
We
So
don't
the
give
fact
Cameron
that
any. I don't know if you've been on the show before, Kristen, but we do not give Cameron props. That is not what we
if you
do.
mean the collective we, you're correct. I feel that I have a responsibility because his brother is extremely abusive to him.
I'm used to it.
You
I'm used
missed
to it.
you missed all the creation that happened that back in that's yeah where I was like hurt and yeah you missed that part
Okay,
yeah
and when I was hunting you down while you go like, I don't
exactly
know. That's why you
that's
never
why we
see
don't live
pictures
in
of
the
us
same
together
state
because
now
I'm
that's
hunting
right
him
that's why
down.
right
He has to hide.
why do
I
you think my
mean,
room looks the same in his so he doesn't know exactly where I'm at um I cut you off I'm sorry go ahead Kristen you were saying
Cameron's the only one who had it on his bingo board that Staggs, the return of Staggs. Um, because, and let's all admit to like why that even occurred in the first place. Because back in the first round of the 5 billion, I'm gonna leave, but no, not quite yet, that Bob Iger did, he got fed up and he decided, you know what? I value me. I do not put stock in like how I'm being treated. I'm bouncing. And he left, like, and good for him because they would not give this man an inch. They would not even say like you're possibly a putative successor in some far off galaxy at which time after Bob Iger has decided he can, do nothing else further and blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. They would not even give the man that. I mean, they were doing the stuff behind the scenes that like one would be doing to prep the successor in at least at that time that we know of as Disney would always do because in the old Disney thing you needed to be in every single sector of the company and they'd start making people jump around and switch jobs with other people so they could get that stuff under their belt so they could say this person's been trained in every aspect of the Walt Disney Company because the the person who runs this company has to be a visionary that has all of these different skill sets. Now, I don't think that that is doable anymore. This place is too big. We talked about that before on another show, so I won't go back into it. Um, but like they did the stuff behind the scenes, but they would not give this man some shine in the media or even to the board to just be like, yeah, we think it's probably going to be you. We're going to prepare you. And so, in my opinion, he rightfully was like, bye, deuces, and he pieced out. And Rizzullo, like, as well. So both of them were played shady. I really didn't think that Staggs would come back, but I mean, it looks like he has the option now. He's coming back on top because the company's not doing so hot. My how the worm has turned.
Well, the interesting thing, and I didn't know this until reading about it, but Staggs and Meyer are co-CEOs of a company right now, and I literally we've talked so much about this, how this job really cannot be done by one person. Like you really need two individuals. You need the business, you need the creative. Like that is what makes this whole thing work. It's what's made it work from the start of everything.
A
But I will
Walt and the
disagree.
Roy, if you will.
Yes, the Walt and the Roy, exactly.
Right.
I will disagree with one thing Cameron said. He's going to say that it's play money and all of that stuff, but it's still a indication of how a company's doing. If you look at Disney's stock prices over the past, I find this to be incredibly interesting. And I don't know if I can make this bigger by any chance or anything. So it's just small. You're gonna have to deal with it. But you have this chart of Disney's performance over the past couple of years, right? And I don't know why this read. It's because it's down in the past 5 years. First of all, down in the past 5 years. No investor likes to see that. Down in the past 5 years, right? But also, there's this period here where there's a meteoric rise up and then a fall down to like November 22, and then it kind of levels out. Anybody know what happened during this meteoric rise up? Do we remember what happened in, like March of 2022? Yes, there was a pandemic, but also Disney got a new CEO. And this whole period of profits and we're doing well and look at all the money we're making and we're bleeding the consumer dry, but look at all the profits. Comes, that whole thing comes from Mr. Bob Chapek. And Chapek. Not good. Anyways, this is the highest the Disney stock has ever been. And that's what investors are looking for. If you look over the time period of where Disney's stock has been over the past X amount of years, 20 years, 30 years, Chapek had the highest stock that was ever there. And that's where I believe Disney's trying to get back to. Like, you have this era of unprecedented growth that comes from Iger and whatnot, and it happens. And then you get Chapek, and it goes even higher. And that's where I think people are saying, like, Disney's in trouble and all of that stuff. It's because of so many things that's happening in the parks, but also because the stock in the company is falling. It's just not as valuable as it once was.
You're just not making as many billions.
The stock market is a scam, okay?
Oh my, here we go. I shouldn't have brought it up, but it's a good point. It's a good point.
It's a scam, yes. I totally agree with Kristen that the
Look,
stock market
seriously though, the stock market is a scam. It is people who take money and then the value of that money either grows or shrinks based on vibes.
Yeah.
That's literally,
Yeah.
that's basically what the stock market is. And when everybody's vibes are really bad, the market crashes and it ruins the entire economy. Why are we running our entire economy on this like side rail of vibes?
Stock
Let's be
market is
real.
more Gen Z than Gen Z.
It is. Right? Like
No,
Gen Z
man.
couldn't even come up with the stock market.
Vibes are off, man. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Right? And
Your money is just as safe on a poker table.
Yeah.
seriously.
That's true. Yes, exactly.
But the problem is that is literally the only way that any of us can get ahead and like save money for retirement. But
Yeah.
even within that, right? Like the only way to play the game in this sketchy, vibey thing that is the stock market is to just put your money in, turn your back on it, and show up again like 50 years later and pull out whatever is there.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
do anything else is foolish, honestly. Because the market will go up over time because that's how our stupid, weird capitalist society works. They just make money and then they just make some more money until the point that everything gets to the point where, honestly, I think it is rapidly approaching, which is late stage capitalism, where
we
we
go.
all learn it was all a scam all along and everything breaks down. Because, yeah, if you look at the time when Iger was here, that's steady growth over time, which is what anybody wants to see in a portfolio, because the decisions that were being made were carefully balanced. They are looking at every single thing for how this company runs, including its reputation among the people who are the ones who are their core fans, who will continue to come back and keep spending money with them. And the moment you get away from the values of a company, if your company cares about values, because some don't, cough, what's his face with the pharma frat dude or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
The moment you move away from your company's core values, if your company is a company that has those, that is the beginning of, sure, like you can ride and play the ponies and try to like shoot the moon, and you're going to make a lot of money in a short period of time, but you are going to absolutely degrade the value and the reputation of your company. And that is currently what the Disney company is stuck with.
Yes.
And yeah, I think you're all right, number one, about the revenge travel thing. I'll take it out of Disney completely. You all know I work in a law school. Every single law school had a huge jump in the same period that you see the Chapek era when those stocks all went up. We all had crazy numbers of people trying to get into law school because the pandemic happened. People don't like going to school, Zoom school of law. So a lot of people decided they weren't going to go to law school or apply to law school during that period. And now it's revenge law school application that occurred. And everybody had great numbers and admissions was insane for the last 2 years. Now we're back to normal. It's still up over what it was before the pandemic, just like Cameron said, but we are down from last year in terms of like admissions numbers of what people did. That is every industry. We are all seeing that happen. So I think what would be fair for the vibey, like, people who keep playing around and, like, gaming the stock market to do would be to pretend like the last 2 years didn't exist, cut that out, stitch it together. We're still above where we were before this. So folks are doing pretty good. But having said that, the stuff that they did during that revenge period has permanently damaged Disney's reputation, and it has put them in the situation they are currently in. And that's their bad, because they could have done something very different than what they did during that time, and they will be reaping those rewards for many years to come.
Yeah. Ed, you've been quiet. Do you want to say anything, or I can go? I got stuff.
I think everything that needs to be said has already been said. I mean,
I feel like I've been preaching. I'm sorry.
No, you've been great. You've explained it far better than I could. We're just the problem is we're in a place where it's not enough to make a large amount of money. We need to make a larger amount of money, and that's a problem.
Yeah. That the interesting thing, like, if you work at a company and they are talking about the pandemic years in a way that isn't like those were weird years or those were odd years or something like that, you should probably go to a different company, because the pandemic, like, I work as an analyst, and as any good analyst that exists at a company will tell you the patterns that we've seen from the 2020, 2021, little bit of 2022 into 2022, we start getting back to some normal patterns. But that whole chain, you can't predict stuff based off of that. That just take that out of your mind. There's a new way that we're getting data and all of that stuff. And so I agree. I mean, we were talking a little bit before this whole show about, like, AI and how much AI has come into play in the writer strike, and the Secret Invasion had AI generated titles, and can AI steal jobs and all this stuff. And I think it's interesting because the way that the world has come and the way that the world has changed since, like, the 40s or whatever is, like, AI was supposed to take our jobs. Computers were supposed to take our jobs so that we could live lavish lives and we'd just be making money and we'd be all fine and everything like that. And what's happened, the reality that's played out, is exactly what Ed was saying, what Kristen was saying, Cameron was saying. Like, we could have AI and it could take people's jobs. It is taking people's jobs. Even though that AI is not as good as the people that are doing the jobs, it is taking people's jobs and having AI. But it's not good for the worker. It's good for 1% of the population, and that's it. The workers are not getting a good deal in this whole, like, the way that things work. But the one glimmer, honestly, the one glimmer of hope I see is what's happening to the Disney company right now. Because and the reason I say that is because there has been such a blowback to the Disney company of all of the, nickel and diming they've been doing, all the stuff, everything we've been talking about for years. Finally, there is that blowback, and you're like, look, like, we're not going to come to Disney World. We're just not going to come to Disney World if that's the way it's going to be. And it's like, literally, they're discounting, like, okay, but what if we did this? But what if we did this? But what if we did this? And I feel like that is going to keep the companies honest. I feel like the consumer by itself, the consumers, the people, the fans, all of that stuff, we can keep these companies honest by supporting the striking workers and all of that stuff. Like, I literally have half a mind to just, like, cancel all my services and switch over to, I don't know, reading books or something that would be smart. Or watching my physical media that people get paid for. So yeah, that's all I have to say for today. Anybody else? Anything else?
No, I
can go out.
Kristen, you hit the nail on the head. You were preaching. That was.
My husband is always like, there are several things that Kristen loves, and then he goes down the list, and one of them he calls giving class.
Yes. Yes.
That is so true.
I think you both hit it on the head when you were talking about the things that Chapek did, because, like you said, they were responsible for that sharp increase. But Bob Iger had the mind to. Bob Iger could have done any of those things, but he said, "Hey, this slow and steady is going to be far better than this. Oh, look at our profits jump, and then there's going to be a big drop because these unintended consequences that we had no clue that." Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
How do you boil a frog alive?
just a little bit of time.
Because
a little bit.
we've been hating on Chapek a lot this episode, but let us not forget that a lot of the things that he started doing were under Bob Iger.
Mr. Iger. Yep.
But again, as I said, like way back then, like Bob Iger, the difference between him and somebody else is like he's not gonna like pee on your head and tell you that it's raining.
It's rained, yes.
He's gonna be like, hey guys, there's gonna be a little pee.
Hey guys, sorry.
There's a little pee coming.
Oh my god. Okay, so that is where we're going to end today. Because that I feel like there's no further we can go from that. Cameron, Kristen, Ed, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
So much, guys. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a magical day.